Okay, as in go? Sorry, 1 second.
Forktales, a podcast that feeds the food and beverage world.
Oh, awesome. Forktales is brought to you by Vigor, a branding and marketing agency for passion-driven, innovative restaurant, beverage, and hospitality brands. Learn more at vigorbranding.com. If you love what we're serving up, please give Forktales a 5-star review on your podcast service of choice. Think of it as a tip for good service. Hey everyone, today I am joined by Charles CJ Moyer, who has a great story to tell. CJ has a mobile bar, and I'm going to be completely transparent here. We already recorded this episode. It was an absolute technological snafu. We just started recording again, had another snafu. So we're going to do this. This is going to work, and I'm going to put all my faith in the technology gods, as it were. So, CJ, say hello, give a little bit of backstory.
Joseph, thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it. My name is CJ Charles Moyer. I run a kind of multiple different businesses revolving around the food and beverage industry, one being Moyer Design Company, which I had started about 4 or 5 years ago now. And from there, met a great group of guys, Paperboy Media Group, and partnered with them. And since then had jumped into the restaurant space or I guess bar space, and started a mobile cocktail bar called Presley's Mobile Cocktail Bar. And so I guess we're looking here to talk about, kind of all those different assets and how they work together.
Yeah. So you went from a designer and a creative, not that you've hung up those coats, as it were, but you went from designer to bar owner. What was that all about? Why get into the industry?
Yeah, so I've always had a love and a passion for the industry. And I think the industry in itself is just so family oriented. Everybody, really has a great time with each other, really expresses their love for this style of work and this type of work. And I think I always wanted to stay a part of that, right? Going from designer to bar owner was a very comfortable and easy decision for me. It was something that I, always had interest in doing. And I think this was kind of the perfect transition.
Nice. Yeah. There's something magical about the bar scene. There's just energy and the people. And I mean, who doesn't have fun when they're drinking?
Of course.
At least to a certain point, right?
Of course. Yeah, of course.
But so the big question is why go mobile bar instead of like the standard brick and mortar?
Right. So we actually went mobile because, while running multiple agencies and being a part of different companies and working kind of that agency lifestyle 24/7, I wanted to do a mobile cocktail bar because the jumping into a brick and mortar was too heavy right now for us. So I think there's an idea of, going brick and mortar down the line and kind of playing around with that idea and that concept. But I think this was the best transition to kind of get our feet wet and understand more of how this industry works while owning something within the industry, right? Not just designing for it or branding for it, but actually being a part of the space. So I think it was an easy, this was a more comfortable decision for us rather than, jumping in on a brick and mortar and not having time for anything.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's such a big ship to steer when you have that brick and mortar. I mean, you have
exactly
the weight of a lease, you have full-time staff that you have to find, hire, train, make sure they're not stealing or doing anything wrong.
Exactly.
It's a big, heavy lift.
Well, I think, ideally it was kind of budgets as well, right? So with this trailer, and I really don't mind being open about it because I love transparency on podcasts, but it costed us $25,000 to get this trailer up and running. That's from the purchase of the trailer to the paint and the blasting of the trailer, to the decals, to the interior design, and so forth, and kind of everything in between, right? You're talking about your registrations and your licensing and so forth. So all in, it costed us about $25,000. And so I think that's, I mean, if we all understand that, from the difference between that and a brick and mortar is drastic. So
Right.
again, this was that comfortable area for us to play in. And so that's kind of was why we took those steps.
Yeah, and so for those that are listening and watching, let's describe the trailer a little bit.
Of
So
course.
there could be like 36 different things in people's minds right now.
Yeah.
So this is not your ordinary food truck trailer that some people may be imagining. So while you give us a little scoop on that.
Yeah, so the trailer is a 1980s horse trailer. We actually purchased it in Ohio and brought it to Pennsylvania. We're located in Philadelphia and Lehigh Valley areas. Um, so once we purchased the trailer, well, I'll give you a little bit of a backstory. The initial concept, the idea was to actually purchase a VW bus and cut the top off of a VW bus and turn that into a really nice kind of wedding activation where, you know, people could take photo ops with it, and there would be a bartender and, you know, really nice setup cocktail bar and so forth. Now, the issues with that were it was about $70,000+. The motor
Mhm.
was located on the vehicle. So if we broke down getting to an event or whatever it might be, that's bad news. Not to mention that there was no overhang. So if it did happen to rain, nobody would be covered in the bar, right? Because
Mhm.
this thing would just lift up and it would be open space. Now that's a great concept for somebody in California, but for us in Pennsylvania, you know, we do get some harsh weather at times, and so
Little bit of snow, just a
exactly
tiny
a
bit.
little bit of snow. So we had chatted with like-minded people in our industry, and we talked to some few guys, and they said, hey, why don't you look at a horse trailer? You could really deck those things out and really make them nice. I mean, it's legitimately a box on wheels, but it has this really fun aesthetic to it, right? So that was our whole idea in going into a horse trailer and really decking that thing out.
Yeah, and it's really cool, and we will have pictures available, and of course
Awesome.
links. Um, but you know, so it's interesting. I think there's a little bit of maybe grappling with ego in this decision. It looks like you guys found the right path, but there's pluses and minuses from my perspective. You know, the minuses would be there's a maybe a perception around illegitimacy or legitimacy because it's a mobile trailer, therefore it's not a quote unquote real bar.
Right.
But I think what's really great about that, the pluses are, well, like you said, cost of entry is low. You own the bar. You know, so with a brick and mortar, unless you purchase the building, you don't own the bar.
Right.
You just happen to
Right.
occupy it.
Exactly.
And then you can grow this fleet if that happens to be your path forward. You end up growing a fleet of owned assets. Then there's the addition of you're driving this thing down the road, like you said. So hello, advertising.
Yep.
You know, you're
Yep.
literally almost literally waving a flag. If you don't have a flag, you should get one for the truck. So you could say you wave
I
the
love
flag.
that. I love that.
But so there's a lot of pluses there, and I think that's what's pretty great. And to me, this is almost an entry into what's next in the food and beverage industry. And now, I'm speculating all this from my perspective, but were these part of the discussions when you were deciding on this move?
Yeah, definitely. And you know, one of those things were the idea that legitimacy illegitimacy conversation, right? We wanted to, a lot of, you know, bars that we see, or cocktail bars that we see, or mobile activations, if you will, we don't find to be necessarily legitimate. They're all kind of pieced together, a little tacky, a little, you know, whatever it might be. And so we really wanted to take that full on bar experience that you get with high end bartenders, good mixologists, people who know how to craft a cocktail, and bring that to our clients and customers. And so what our idea is that people love these kind of mobile activations, but we wanted to take it the next step further and make it really cocktail bar traditional, if that makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
We wanted that experience of the bartenders, you know, really knowing how to shake a really well cocktail, or you know, just everything in between. We wanted that full on experience of curating a full menu for our clients, and having them kind of choose from which cocktails they should get, using quality ingredients, using, you know, fresh pressed juices and so forth. And so we do the whole nine. And that's where kind of our legitimacy came to play
Mm-hmm.
when we opened up this cocktail bar, or this mobile bar, right?
Yeah, so let's talk about that process a little bit. Obviously, it's not like you're rolling up to a cross section of a street and starting to sling some drinks.
Right.
This is event oriented and activated, but it's not like you're rolling up with the same menu, right? So you're working with clients. Can you explain a little
Exactly.
bit of that interaction?
Yeah, of course. So, we have multiple packages. One's just beer and wine, which is fine. The other is going to be beer, wine, and what I usually call a his and hers. So something that tends more to men, something that tends more to women, and then we have an open bar package where it's kind of up to 7 different liqueurs, and we'll essentially bring all mixers, garnishes that you could possibly think of to actually have a full open bar at these weddings, events, private parties, corporate events, whatever it might be. So, and usually what we do is we'll take those. So right now, seasonal, we have a couple events coming up. We have 2 happy hours, which are going to be really fun. And then we also have a Halloween party and a wedding coming up in November. So what we're
Mm,
doing is we're tailoring all of our cocktails and all of our ingredients to the season, right? So a lot of cider, a lot of stuff with cider in it, a lot of stuff garnished with apples, and kind of working around those types of ingredients and making them really fall friendly.
yeah. So you're doing a candy corn martini.
We are doing a s'mores old fashioned, which should be interesting. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. For
Um,
the listeners, please don't ever make a candy corn martini, please.
Do not. We're pushing the limits with this s'mores old fashioned, but I think it'll turn out really nice. We're going light on it. It will essentially be a strict old fashioned, and then what we're doing from there is we're just going to garnish the rim with chocolate and crumbled graham crackers, and then do some roasted marshmallows on top as a garnish. So straight old fashioned, you just get a little bit of chocolate and graham cracker in between.
I love that, and you don't have to
Yeah.
roast it over an open fire. In
Exactly.
fact, it's frowned upon, right? Um,
Exactly.
please don't roast us over the fire. So let's talk about some of the challenges. How do you deal with the space constraints of the trailer?
Yeah, so, the only constraints we've really had was the idea that people want to have a 300 to 5 person event. And so two people ideally in one small bar is going to be difficult to turn drinks, right? So what we'll do from there is we'll actually pull out a bar to the outside of the trailer, and it'll act as a kind of a second activation or a rather larger bar for people to come up and grab drinks and so forth. Um, as far as constraints with inside the trailer and 2 bartenders working at a time, it's been fairly easy. We've had a lot of great feedback from our bartenders. I've bartended back there a couple times, and it's quite simple. It's, each or each bartender has their station. We have a big bucket of ice in between us, and then from there you have all your cups and garnishes right there. So it's really actually a nice, easy, smooth process.
Yeah, and I guess since it's not like you're dealing with the back wall of 100 different types of spirits. I mean, it is a very
Right.
tailored down um, system, so that probably helps a lot.
Right.
What about some of the challenges facing the industry right now? I mean, we have labor shortages that I think still hasn't really been remedied, and then we also have challenges with supply chain. Have you guys been hit with that at all?
Yeah. So as far as labor goes, we haven't experienced any issues. With Pennsylvania bartenders, all you really need is a ramp certification. So we could really have any friend who's interested in bartending coach them up on the drinks they're making for the night, or if they're just cracking beers or pouring wine. Everybody knows how to do that, right? So all they need to do is go online, pay for a ramp certification, and then they can bartend with us. So that's a very easy process. We always have people in our friend group, or people around us who want to come and join us for the night and actually bartend. We actually get more people inquiring about that than not. And then from there, as far as supply goes, we do have a shortage in Pennsylvania. It is slightly a pain in the ass. Luckily for us, we cannot provide the alcohol to our customers because we are in the state of Pennsylvania, and because we are mobile, we cannot obtain a liquor license. Now, there's talks down the road of us partnering with, a distillery or so forth, and shaking hands with them and saying, hey, we'd love to, tie ourselves to your liquor license. We'd love to tie ourselves to your 80 off-premise events that you get a year with your PA liquor license. That's a different conversation down the road. From there, we will be probably more stocked. But as of right now, what we do is we actually send a small menu or recommended or suggested list to our clients of the types of alcohol and how many bottles they need to provide their party to get through the night. If not, maybe have a little extra, a little extra. And from there, we usually recommend just popping over the border to Jersey and going to Total Wines and buying as much booze as they can possibly think of. Because right now in the city of Philadelphia, I believe if it hasn't gotten lifted, it's still it's a two bottle minimum per person leaving the liquor store.
Oh, you mean 2 bottle maximum?
Maximum. Sorry. Yes,
Maximum. Yeah.
maximum.
Yeah, I was gonna say two bottle minimum is usually how I roll.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah,
for those that don't know, could you just explain the ramp certification quickly?
Yeah, so a ramp certification is essentially, what servers, bartenders, and people within the food and beverage industry need to obtain to serve food. A lot of, actually, you know what? I'm not sure how many restaurants actually need to use this or need to provide it, but as far as insurances go, it definitely helps out. So it's essentially a test online. When you become ramp certified, the understanding is that you have taken tests to safely serve food in the industry, safely serve beverages in the industry, and you know what you're doing. So you're not over serving. You're not.
You're not taking a sip of the drink before handing it over.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Rookie move. So let's talk about building this brand. I mean, so you guys decide that you're going to do this mobile bar. As a designer and working with a design company, obviously the excitement starts to get charged around what are we calling this thing? How's it going to look? Why is it going to look that way? Could you take us a little bit through that journey? Because I imagine that it was a little bit difficult because when you have to design for yourself, you become instantly your worst client.
Yeah, it's always difficult. My idea there was keep it simple, stupid, maybe make it a word mark, add some small fun brand elements, and then really let the trailer speak for itself, right? Our brand is really revolved around a lot of it, the color of our trailer. People absolutely love this really dark green color to our trailer. We use really deep, dark woods, and we use copper and kind of this brass throughout. So it was more so keeping the logo and the brand identity very simple, but implementing, some color and some other pieces of interior design that really make the brand full and that kind of just brand feel that you get. So it was difficult at first, but, my idea was just to kind of keep it simple and let it ride and kind of, let it take ownership of itself and see what people make of it and see how it lives within the space. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a really beautiful color. And I think the way the copper interacts with green is definitely hot right now.
Yeah.
How about the name? Where'd the name come from? Are you allowed to say?
Yeah, of course. So Presley's is my goddaughter. It is the daughter of one of our partners, Ryan Moran. And, he named her after Elvis Presley. Both his kids have, kind of old school rock star names. And we thought the name was obviously chosen because of her, but we thought the name was perfect because it was very boutique, but it was also edgy. You could see something like Presley's Cocktail Bar at a nice wedding, but you could also see Presley's Cocktail Bar at a nice, blues show or blues fest, right? So we kind of thought it had that, duality to it and that kind of comfort zone of it.
Yeah, and so as you guys grow, have there been discussions around owning the IP? I imagine, especially when you get into possessive names, trademarking them does become a little bit difficult. So have you embarked down that road?
Not so much, no. I think that's further down the line because I think that's in the conversation when we start to talk about adding additional trailers to our fleet. Right now, there hasn't been talks about that. We're trying to get through this first year. We launched a little late. We launched in September. We have a decent amount of bookings already. And now summer and spring 2022, we are close to being booked every weekend, which is absolutely incredible.
That's amazing.
So we're taking it day by day. I think next summer and spring are, really going to be a kick in the ass for us. And so I think at that time, probably towards the end of summer, we'll start having conversations of, hey, should we add another trailer to our fleet for 23? You know?
Yeah, and I think one of the brilliant things about your geographic location is, yeah, you're just outside of Philly, in Philly, but you have all of New Jersey there. You have
Yep.
the rest of Pennsylvania, or at least into central PA, and then you get into Maryland and even Virginia. So like DC, Baltimore, and if you really want to go north, you have this little tiny town known as New York City, um, and surrounding areas too. So it's a really great spot to be located for a mobile experience like this.
Definitely.
Um, as you grow, would you consider larger trailers? Are you looking for the same style of trailer so you have that brand consistency? Are you
Yeah.
allowed to divulge any of this, or am I digging too deep?
No, you're good. You're good. We can kind of say whatever we want. I think it's such a fun little side hustle and business that, we're really comfortable to talk openly about it. And I think that's the fun part about it, right? Is it's not something so structurally and, fundamentally based. It's this really just kind of fun concept that we're playing with and figuring out and seeing what goes. So there, one of our partners, Zach, had talks about his in-laws. They actually own a cattle trailer that they're getting rid of. Now this cattle trailer is like 17 feet. So
Now you're talking.
it's a very large trailer. And right now I can't commit. In the future, I think, once we start doing more of these weddings, and more of these private events and private parties, that Presley's is the perfect size for those types of venues, right? Now, if we got this cattle trailer, I would deck it out very much the same, but I think we'd probably line the back wall with keg taps. And we would probably do the whole front of the bar as, your cocktail service, back of the bar, maybe 10 to 12 keg taps along that 17 line wall. But I think we need to understand that space a bit more. I think, with the Pennsylvania restrictions, the thing that makes me nervous is that, who would be able to rent this out? We would need to rent this out to large events, music festivals, big parties that it would make sense at, right? You're not going to do a 150 person wedding with 10 keg taps, and it just would never make sense, right? Like, so
It'd be the ultimate
yeah,
flex.
we would definitely have to figure out where it would fit and how that would, play in the space, and if it's something that people are demanding right now, or do people just prefer, the tents with the pulled up trucks or whatever it might be for their kegerators. I mean, I'm not sure. It's definitely something we need to check out more, but it's definitely in the talks.
Yeah, it's easy to get excited about
Yeah,
the
it is.
potential, right?
It is. It is definitely.
So
Definitely.
you've been on the road, not just proverbial speaking, for a little over a month, 2 months now.
Yep.
Yep. So, what have you learned? What were some things that you thought were going to be a win that were maybe a loss? Yeah, pluses and minuses.
Yeah. Let's see here. I think the first thing and foremost is that, within this industry, a lot of people shop, and a lot of people don't commit right away. So, in that sense, we use an online platform for all of our booking and scheduling and so forth. And so what we're finding right now is that we're getting tons and tons and tons of inquiries, and we're setting out brochures and our pricing and services guide and so forth. And people are, kind of just opening and not really responding. Then I'll go to following up. But, I think that's one thing I'm learning right now is that a lot of people shop for their weddings. A lot of people want to know price ranges. A lot of people want to understand, their kind of their different, pivots and choices that they have to use an activation at a bar. I also understand that not a lot of people want a horse trailer at their private party or event or whatever it might be. But a lot of people are loving it too. And other than that, I mean, everything's fairly simple. It's a very, very simple concept. It's a bar on wheels. You just got to tow it there, drop it off, and then people bartend it, and everybody enjoys their time. We have not run out of liquor yet, which is great. We have not. We had one issue at our launch party where our PSI on our kegs were really low, and we actually drained the whole tank, unfortunately. So we kicked one whole keg of Sam Adams Oktoberfest, but the keg of Michelob just kind of went to shit. So Other than that, I mean, it's, it's been fairly simple and a great experience in general.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, if you had to choose which beer to
Exactly.
sacrifice,
Exactly.
it was the right choice.
Yeah. Yeah. We have the option for two six stalls, so two smaller, skinnier kegs.
Yeah.
And so it was like, we were talking to the guys and we said, do you have any Oktoberfest on draft, or like just a really good, kind of deep, darker lager? And they had Oktoberfest, which was perfect. So our launch party was September 25th. And then, we asked them for just like a Bud Light or a Miller Light, and all they had was Michelob. So we went with it.
Yeah, yeah, it's tough, especially when you get into light beers.
Yeah.
But here's the funny thing, and we'll just take this sidestep for a minute. A lot of these craft breweries have tried to launch a light beer or a lager, and I don't think they're good. You know, like I mean Bud Light. Like, so one, I can't have Coors Light for some reason. It's like instant headache. But Bud Light, it's just a good light beer.
Yeah. I very much agree with you. I'm on the Bud Light train over the Miller Light train. I will say, I think, and just the way I've been seeing the industry, or the beer industry, move a little bit, is a lot of these IPAs are getting a little drawn out, a little too hoppy. Let's keep it blue collar, golden cold. What's wrong
Mm-hmm.
with a good gold crisp lager? And so I think we're now starting to see a lot of breweries pivot into starting to do some lagers, some pills, some pale ales, and so forth. So I'm not seeing too many. I mean, you still see a lot of IPAs on the market and whatnot, but I really can't get interested in them, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I love a good IPA, especially one that's been intelligently fruited. So here in Atlanta, we have a brand called Scofflaw,
Okay.
and they've gotten they've been pretty polarizing and divisive in at least in their early years, which plays up to their name anyway. I loved the brand truly because they haven't pulled any punches. They got a big mouth. They're not afraid to use it, and they quite simply have said, if you don't like it, then don't drink it. I mean, like, and they've
You gotta
literally
love
said it
bold
on the
brands.
beer Reddits. Yeah, I mean,
I
they're like,
love that.
because they had issues with consistency early on. They
Okay.
started a little bit, I think, a little bootstrapped, and so they had consistency issues. And some people on the beer Reddits were calling them out for it. They're like, "Good news, just don't drink it." The end.
Right.
Like,
Right.
we're
Right.
fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they've created this passion fruit orange grapefruit IPA, and it's called POG for passion fruit orange grapefruit.
Okay.
It is just stellar. It is just
Good.
so
Good
good.
beer.
Yeah, and I
Nice.
think that's what we're really coming down to. I mean, I think everybody at this point knows and realizes that the craft beer movement is way into bubble phase at this point. And
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited to see who lasts,
Yeah.
because yeah, sure, it's going to be a little bit of money, the people who are financially backed, but I think also hopefully it's quality too, because we have some players here that are well funded that I just don't think their beer really stands up
Yeah.
comparatively.
I completely agree. I also, a lot of what I see, especially where we're from, Philadelphia and the surrounding areas, is make an experience with your brewery. Don't just throw a bunch of taps, a bar in this kind of cement blocked room with a bunch of picnic tables. It's not interesting and it's not fun. I mean, you gotta, it's this idea of creating a restaurant experience, this idea of creating a comfortable place that everybody wants to go and have a drink at on Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon, whatever it might be. I see too many people, like I just said, doing the whole picnic table, cement floor, we're a brewery type shtick. And I think it's, some places have good beer, but if you don't have good beer to back your experience, I think that's how you're going to get washed out, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has that, like you said, and I
Right.
think what I'm yearning to find is a brewery who really starts to take the brand seriously.
Hmm.
Everybody's doing these hop puns. They're still trying. It's still like a good old bro network, and it looks like
Yeah.
it. Now you have some ones that are kind of stepping aside and maybe trying to make a claim, but I would say the majority of them, they're really boring at this point. It's like,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, I get it. You used the word hop, and now it's called opportunity. That's really funny. Um, but like, where's the story? Where's the play? And I
Right.
think what we're going to see is this next, maybe we'll call it a second wave. What I'd like to see, and what I hope we see, is you're going to see some people that just go so basic, where it's like, it's beer. Drink it.
Yeah.
We
No,
made
I
it. It's
agree.
good.
I agree.
And then
Yeah.
hopefully we'll see some story behind. We didn't just make an IPA because the brewer woke up and said, "Oh, I should make an IPA." We made one because X, Y, and Z. Here's the story behind it. Here's how it connects to our brand a little bit better, to really start to create those brand affinities that I think is lacking in the industry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Agreed. Agreed. And
yeah.
I always think about this too is, the idea that so many chefs, right, when you're a good executive chef and you've been trained and you've been taught and you've went to other countries to learn their craft and how they do their style of cooking or whatever it might be. Um, why, why don't we ever see too many, at least I don't hear the stories of brewers traveling to Ireland to figure out what kind of methods they're using in Ireland to brew their beer. How do they get that kind of, you know, how does somebody brew a Guinness and make it absolutely perfect, right? And maybe
Mhm.
it's not Guinness, but this is just food for thought and an example. But I think too many people are just buying a homebrew kit, creating a lager, and be like, okay, let's get some investors and let's do this thing, right?
Right.
And so I'd love to kind of see more of a story and somebody kind of put some more. I'm not saying people don't put dedication and heart into it, but just some bigger, broader stories, something that people can really stand behind. I think would be really, really interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Here in Atlanta, we've there's a couple that come to mind with the whole "we journeyed and tasted" thing.
Hmm.
Um, but when you do that, what you come back with is old world beer, and
Right.
people, the palate kind of steered away from that because that's essentially what you had back before the craft brew explosion. You had your lagers, lights, and regulars, and
Hmm.
then you had your brands that were selling old world. Like your
Yep.
Duvals and Delirium Tremens and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, but I think I'm hoping that we just find a stride where people realize it's not just the beer; it is the brand, and people need to
Yeah.
start buying into a brand.
Yep.
Now, brands like Scofflaw, I think, have a great leg up because they've made it very clear who they are. They're for the rebels. They're for the people that don't give a shit.
Right.
But everyone else is pretty much like, no, we're really craft and brewery. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
this is our picnic
Yeah.
table. It's all about the beer, and it's like, yeah. When you do that, it really does come down strictly to just taste. And
Right.
if your beer is inconsistent, or if it quite honestly just isn't that great, then you will fall away.
Of
But a
course.
brand can make up, I think, that difference.
Agreed.
Well, let's go back to spirits. So,
Yeah.
in closing, really pumped about Presley's. I can't wait to see where this goes. Um, so far, what has been your favorite cocktail made under the Presley's brand?
I think our brand, identifies with an old fashioned. It's if you once the folks listening in or watching this actually see the trailer, I think they'll really understand. It's a deep green with a lot of deep wood and that copper, and it just has that very kind of rustic, traditional feel to it. We want you to have the experience that you're sitting down in a really comfortable, dimmed lit bar. We have greenery everywhere. So I think that old fashioned is kind of our drink to go to, especially right now with the fall season. We're full. I don't know how it is in Atlanta right now, but we are full 60 degrees with leaves falling on the ground right now. So it's just a great beverage, especially on our launch was absolutely phenomenal. We poured all of our bourbon that we had in stock, and so I think the old fashions definitely are our go to, and which is why we're slightly experimenting with some different versions of it.
Mhm.
But I think people really do enjoy that, especially this time of year.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I love myself a good old fashioned or a Manhattan for that matter.
Yeah.
All right, so it's your last day on Earth, CJ. You're facing the end of the line right in the face. What is the last drink cocktail you'd have?
I heard the last cocktail. Um,
Last cocktail on Earth. What are you having?
Cool. I'm gonna go with just a glass of rye on the rocks. Big rye drinker. I absolutely love it. One that I just buy as far as a good sip and drink is a bullet rye. I mean, I know it's nothing crazy, but it's just a good drink to have. So I'm gonna go bullet rye on the rocks.
Yeah, it is a solid It is a solid rye. That's how I prefer my
Yeah.
old fashions, bullet rye.
It's a drinkable rye. You're not spending $60, $70, $80 on a bottle. It's something you can come home to at the end of the night, or you're working late night at 8 p.m., 9 p.m., and you decide you want a little glass on the rocks. It's perfect pour.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, we're at the end of the road ourselves now. We've made it through. The technical difficulties are not as bad as they were. I apologize for folks that heard some ambient noise. My lawn people decided to do the lawn during this, but it's still a great episode, and I thank you so much for your time and your insights, and I'm really pumped about Presley's.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you so much, Joseph, and congratulations to you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Yeah, appreciate it.
If you love what we've served up, please follow us at Vigor Branding on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Medium. Forktales is produced by the team at Vigor. Audio and video post-productions provided by Zencaster. Music performed by Jet Trash and licensed through musicbed.com. Joseph handles his own hair, makeup, and stunts. Copyright 2003 to 2021, Vigor Graphic Design LLC, all rights reserved.